This is something that I think is so important. The whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, and I have to say, in a way, the American right kind of made this monster and it's now sort of attacking them, where it became like every person who ever talked to Jeffrey Epstein, who ever met Jeffrey Epstein, somehow had suspicion on them that they were a pedophile or had an interest in
His is not damage control anymore. It is a counter-strike collapsing in real time. Everyone thought this empire was untouchable, polished, music insulated by money and silence until the response exposed more than the leak itself. What music just surfaces is not a denial but a reaction. A sudden legal push, posts disappearing, music major outlets going quiet, and one rival deciding to press harder instead of backing off. All unfolding publicly and fast. Within hours of the Epstein file release, Jay-Z's name spreads through an FBI intake record tied to a 1996 Florida property. And almost immediately, 50 Music sent posts that he wants a documentary, then escalates after warnings allegedly land. Jay-Z is then rumored abroad. Beyoncé's follower count reportedly drops by the millions and the silence from their usual media allies becomes absolute. None of that matches a story that is supposed to be harmless.
So first, I think we just have to say, and you set it up well, there are two real storylines here. One is what is in these files that we can see and that we can actually learn. We're going to get on that first. There's also the story about what is not in these files or what is heavily redacted, because that is also sparking.
Harmless. The timing is wrong. The reactions are too coordinated and the retreat is too visible. Whatever mechanism is activating here is older, heavier, and it is already moving toward consequences. No statement can stop the response inside the Carter Circle hardens almost immediately, and that reaction becomes the story. As the Epstein files circulate, people close to the situation say the priority is not clarification, but containment, and the signs show up fast. Posts referencing the file begin to vanish. Gossip accounts go quiet. Major outlets that usually sprint toward controversy hesitate or skip it entirely. At the same time, messages start moving through legal channels, not public ones. And the name most often attached to that pressure is Beyoncé's. Music industry sources describe a familiar pattern. Suppress the spread. Starve the oxygen. Remind people where their access comes from. It is the opposite of how an innocent misunderstanding usually gets handled. Music, the silence does not feel calm. It feels coordinated. And that coordination becomes impossible to ignore once it collides with someone who has no interest in staying quiet. That collision arrives publicly on January 31st when 50 Music sent posts a blunt message reacting to Jay-Z's name appearing in the Epstein material, writing, "Dan, they got your man Jay in the Epstein files. I got to do a doc on this stuff." The post does not read like curiosity. It reads like provocation. Within hours, memes follow, then AI imagery, then mocking captions that suggest he knows exactly which nerves he is hitting. Music. People around him say the tone shifts after alleged legal warnings surface. Not softer but sharper. Music, instead of backing down, he escalates, teasing the idea of exposure and daring anyone to stop him. In an industry trained to respond to threats with compliance, his refusal becomes disruptive all by itself. The surface explanation offered quietly is that Jay-Z's name appears only in an unverified FBI intake record logged in July 2019 and tied to an alleged incident at a Florida property in 1996.
So what happens now is this is simply a civil complaint. And in a civil complaint, it goes through the technical legal process. Now, the distinction, Jessica, between civil and criminal, of course, is that civil is for monetary damages, right? The system can only reward you with money. There's allegations that this 13-year-old is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, suffered depression, etc. So now you go to fact-finding.
In 1996. That is supposed to be the end of it. No charges, no follow-up, no confirmation, but the reactions music do not line up with that script. Jay-Z does not issue a denial. He does not send representatives into the press cycle. Instead, reports begin circulating that he leaves the United States entirely, a move people close to the couple describe as temporary. Music, but never clearly explain. At the same time, analytics accounts claim Beyoncé's online following drops by the millions in a matter of days. A visible sign of public unease that her team does not address. These are not the moves of people confident the story will burn out on its own. Here's where the story starts to bend. If the mention is meaningless, why does it trigger such aggressive suppression? If the intake record is unreliable, why not confront it head-on? Insiders point out that Beyoncé has spent years building an image of control, precision, and absolute authority over her brand, and that this moment tests that machinery. Music legal pressure replaces public reassurance. Silence replaces explanation. People who normally speak for the Carters suddenly cannot be reached. Even allies appear hesitant, as if waiting for instruction. Music, the vacuum invites speculation, and that speculation is exactly what the containment strategy is supposed to prevent. Instead, music it grows. What fuels? That growth is the contrast between who stays quiet and who does not. 50 Cent keeps posting. Music, he references his recent documentary success dismantling another powerful figure, reminding everyone he knows how to turn.
If we get to the bottom of Tupac's when that is finally revealed, 15 other will be revealed with it. And you will find that they were all committed by the same two people, father and son.
He knows how to turn allegations into content and attention. Music. He jokes about smelling beef and popcorn, framing the situation as entertainment while making clear he is not intimidated. Industry veterans note that this is not random trolling. It is strategic pressure. By refusing to let the conversation fade, he forces the Carters' response or lack of one into sharper focus. Every hour without a statement makes his insinuations feel heavier. The media landscape amplifies the tension. Music fans notice that outlets known for breaking celebrity scandals do not touch the story or quietly remove mentions. Screenshots circulate showing posts deleted without explanation. Music. People begin asking whether this is coincidence or influence. Beyoncé's name comes up again and again, not as a subject of the allegation, but as the person with the leverage to make stories disappear. That perception alone shifts music the narrative. The question stops being what happened in 1996 and becomes what is happening now and who is controlling it. As the days pass, the rumor of Jay-Z being abroad hardens into accepted fact in online circles, even as no official confirmation appears. Music people close to the couple insist it is precautionary, but cannot explain why precaution is necessary. Others whisper that leaving the country buys time while lawyers work. None of those explanations account for why the couple does not simply deny the claims outright. The lack of clarity feeds a darker interpretation that responding publicly risks opening doors better left shut. Music in that context, Beyoncé's role looks less like protection and more like command, directing a shutdown while hoping the storm passes. By music now, the original allegation almost feels...
What I've gathered from your articles, this seems to be a global network that Epstein was a part of, and I believe there are multiple Epsteins. Like, I don't believe that Jeffrey Epstein was the head of the snake. Yeah, like, you know, they never go after the head of the snake. They never go after
the head of the snake, quote unquote, are just, it's the billionaire class, and so there's a faction of these billionaires in our oligarchy. And of course, the American oligarchy, you know, the American oligarchs don't necessarily, a lot of them don't have an allegiance necessarily to the United States.
Almost feels secondary to the behavior surrounding it. A single intake record leads to legal warnings, mass silence, music, social media fallout, and a rival openly daring the empire to react. Each piece on its own might be dismissed. Together, music, they form a pattern that refuses to settle. The more the Carters pull inward, the more space they create for outsiders to define the story. And as 50 Cent continues to poke at that space, the question hanging over everything is no longer whether this will escalate, but how much pressure the system can absorb before something breaks. What starts to surface now is that this moment does not exist in isolation, and people inside the industry start drawing lines backward instead of forward. Epstein's shadow hangs over it not because of one file, but because of what his world represents. Powerful figures orbiting private spaces, accusations treated as administrative problems, and reputations preserved through silence and leverage. Insiders point out that the playbook unfolding around the Carters looks familiar to anyone who has watched similar crises before. When proximity becomes dangerous, the priority music shifts to minimizing exposure, not addressing substance. That instinct alone reframes the current reaction as learned behavior, not panic. The deeper implication is that this is not the first time these defenses have been tested. Only music, the first time someone with nothing to lose keeps pushing from the outside. As attention widens, older stories that once lived on the margins begin snapping back into focus. For years, whispers circulate about exclusive gatherings that leave guests unsettled, about environments where power dynamics feel off, about scenes that never quite match the polished public image. Music, none of these rumors gain traction on their own. They linger, dismissed as bitterness or fantasy. But now,
there's a lot of people, 50, I feel like he don't have to say nothing, but 50's crazy. He's been like this his whole life. When he's on the block, oh, 50's coming.
But now with scrutiny back on the Carter orbit, those stories stop floating independently and start clustering. Industry veterans say that when multiple people who never coordinated describe similar discomfort, the instinct is not to prove anything, but to ask why the same themes keep resurfacing. In that music context, today's silence feels less like dignity and more like strategy. Beyoncé's history becomes impossible to separate from that strategy. Former collaborators have previously accused her of exerting control in ways that extend beyond contracts and choreography, alleging manipulation, intimidation, music, and practices they describe as spiritually disturbing. At the time, those claims are waved away as instability or jealousy. Now they are reinterpreted as early warnings about how power operates inside her circle. Music people close to her insist she believes absolute control is protection, and that belief informs every move she makes when the brand is threatened. Seen through that lens, the current suppression effort is music not.
We've seen dozens of new photos we haven't seen before of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with very high-profile people, celebrities, people like Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson, like you showed, also like British royalty and actors. All of that we sort of knew was happening. I want to highlight specifically two for the public interest, and that is President Clinton and President.
Music not reactionary. It is consistent. It is how she has always handled perceived threats. By tightening the perimeter and trusting that silence outlasts noise, the marriage itself starts to look different under that pressure. What once sells as a partnership built on loyalty and mutual elevation now reads to skeptics music as a mutually assured defense pact. Industry insiders speculate that separation is dangerous, not because of heartbreak, but because of exposure. Staying together means controlling the narrative as a unit. Splitting would fracture that control and invite questions neither side wants answered. That interpretation.
Family out tonight is a family affair. I saw your mother-in-law so proud of. Yeah, we're going.
That interpretation spreads quickly online, fueling speculation that divorce is not merely unlikely, but impossible. Every public appearance, every lack of appearance becomes evidence in a larger theory that the relationship functions as insulation rather than romance. Meanwhile, the figure who refuses to play by those rules keeps circling. 50 Cent's role shifts in perception from troll to pressure music test. People who have worked with him describe his instinct for identifying fear for recognizing when a reaction signals vulnerability. His history of turning conflict into leverage makes his persistence feel intentional. Music. He is not alleging specifics. He is daring a response. And by doing so, he exposes how constrained his targets really are. Each time he posts, the absence of pushback from the Carters reinforces music, the sense that they are boxed in by their own silence. The broader industry watches closely because the implications reach beyond one couple. Executives, artists, and power brokers